I used to wouldn't go into a church or a religious establishment without having a pen and a pad because I was always taking notes. So I have probably 10, 15 pads. I have binders full of stuff that I've written over the years that I can use repeatedly, and so a lot of times when you hear me say certain phrases and so forth, like you hear with Linda, these are things that we've meditated upon, and this was what was given to us. So what we are saying is what God's given us through our quiet time. And when you begin going into the silence, as Lindo preaches, and I shouldn't use the term preach, but I'm going to say we're preaching right now, on, day in, day out, go into the silent, go into the silent, go into the silent. You have to get it for yourself. You can't have DeCarlo's message, Lindo's message, Neville's message. Ultimately, you have your own voice. And when you go into the silence, that voice will become loudest. Begin jotting down, taking recordings, whatever, so that you have a way of capturing what you're discovering in the silence. Begin sharing it with others.
That's it. That's exactly it. Imagine, Montaigne tells us that we're all operating the power in our imaginal activity. The question, imagining what? Standing in an enormous warehouse, a hardware store. I asked my friend, how many different items do you suppose there are in this facility? His reply was, well, probably 1 million. I says, okay, let's go with that. And what do they all have in common? And he answered, they all cost something. Well, okay, I'll give you that one. But even before that, had to be imagined. Every item in this store had to first be imagined. Maybe not the same person didn't make it, but
absolutely,
someone had to imagine it. So right there, that's what creates in this world of the experiencing, is your imagining activity. And if you're not guiding or directing your imaginal activity, then you're not being directed. You're just wandering around, floating, as it were. So it is up to you. It is your responsibility to choose what you will allow yourself to entertain as thought. Because as you think, you are. That's it, isn't it?
That's it. And I think one of the challenges that people face is that we still don't get that imagining is the first cause. We see imagining often as second cause. We see what we see in physical reality, what we call reality, what you call virtual reality, rightly so, as what's real. But the true real is imagining. Everything starts first in the mind of men and women, children, whosoever.
And then they'll ask me, they'll say, well, what about all the terrible things that happen in the world?
Same thing.
Yeah, what about it? Keep your mouth shut. What are you saying to yourself?
Absolutely.
See, that's it. You think that your thinking doesn't matter in all of this, but it does. Every vote counts. And everybody is voting moment by moment. Do you realize that you're living your life moment by moment? And what you're thinking this moment is projected into your future moments? You see, you're thinking ahead of your evidence. But about what? Something lovely and a good report? Or, oh, God. Yeah, that's it. And think about it. Pleading and begging with God, that's its own answer.
And I'll say it again, as Linda was speaking about pleading and begging God. Only thing you're going to get from pleading and begging God is more of what you're pleading and begging God about. So if you're dealing with sickness and you're pleading and begging, you have to see health, wellness. If you want abundance, then begin seeing yourself from a place of abundance. But if you're sitting there crying about lack, the only thing you're going to reproduce is more lack.
Or lack. That's right. And it'll even be a special blend.
Absolutely.
And that does become confusing.
Yeah.
But, we do it to ourselves. That's the thing that people have to really realize. You're doing it to yourself. Whatever you're doing it to yourself. There's only the self. There's only God, and He's with you always. Never leave you. Omnipresent. I mean, what more do you need to know? Really. I mean, there it is. Focus on that and see where it leads you.
Because it's a sensitive subject, I had to decide if I was going to speak on it today, but I think that it's important that we speak on it. I know since you're in the L.A. County area, you know, of course, about the loss of Kobe Bryant. The thing is, we want to make Kobe's loss an exception, but we're losing people, entire families, daily. Even at this moment as we're speaking, an entire family being lost through some type of disaster. So it's not that it's new. But what I want you as creators to understand, before they got onto that helicopter, there was conversations that took place. There was conversations about the fog. There was conversations about the weather. And somebody made a choice. Multiple people made a choice. And because of those choices, there were consequences. There's nowhere in the world looking at, based off of the information that we have now, that that pilot should have been up in the air. If you decide to take, let's say it's raining outside and you know that the roads are bad, and you decide that I'm going to get out there on the road, then you have to deal with the consequences of your getting out there. And this is not me putting down Kobe or anyone else, but what I'm saying is we have a valid say, and we have to be about our valid say. And we also have to do things, as it were, in wisdom. You don't put yourself in harm's way unnecessarily. And this grieves me most because this was an unnecessary event that did not have to happen if people just looked at what was taking place. I mean, you had a fog that was probably thicker than most, but we get in our mind's eye, we say, well, I've driven in the fog, I've been on the ice, I've done this 1,000 times. There may be that one time, if you don't listen to reason or caution, that may be the last time. And I'm sorry for the loss, but I'm saying as creators, you have to be mindful of your say and make sure that it's a valid and wise say.
But the thing is, too, is not to be fearful in your
Absolutely. Exactly. I mean, and if you make a choice, because I know every time I get on the road that could be the last time my wife sees me. But you know what? I'm okay with that because I've made a choice that I'm going to be out on the road. Kobe made a choice that he was going to be in this helicopter with his daughter. So he said in one interview he didn't have any problem with death. The thing is, if I make a choice, I'm okay with the ultimate consequence because the truth of the matter is I'm going to leave here one way or the other. Nobody gets out alive.
Yeah, that's it. There's no ticket for that.
No tickets for that.
No. Everybody's looking for a ticket, as I said, and they don't realize they're the show.
They're the show. They're the show. So just be okay with your choices, and don't second guess yourself.
Guessing yourself, yeah, that's a biggie. That's the behind the voice kind of thing.
Don't operate in fear. You know, people. I mean, the truth of the matter is, it's not very common that helicopters even go down. We have more fatalities in cars than we do in helicopters. So. But like Lyndall said, don't operate in fear. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, know that when you're making a choice, be responsible for that choice. I was talking to my granddaughter as I was helping her with her homework, and there was a problem that she knew the obvious answer, but she didn't choose that answer. And she started coming up with these excuses. I said, no, you need to take responsibility for that wrong answer as you take responsibility for the right answer, and be okay with making the choice. I said, but you can't take responsibility for the good answer, but say, no, I'm not responsible for the bad answer. That's just not how life works.
Every word is taken in to make up your life of experiencing. Every word. The culmination of it is your life. And if you're not watching what you're saying, then you're not watching what you're doing. Because that's a doing. saying is doing. What are you saying? Because that's what you're doing. Talk to yourself better. This is something God made. He wouldn't make it wrong. So it must be the way we're treating it. Think only on things that are lovely and of good report. Who does that? Who does that? Nobody. But more is better. It's what we're all looking for, but, it's a little difficult to single out a person that's doing it. We all have these moments, we all have depression.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
People think that when they're in depression that they're the only one that it's happening to. It happens to all of us. I mean, you read back through the scriptures, there's a lot of depression there. Of course, they have reason, but more reason than we'd have. But the point is that if you think about being depressed, you only get more depressed.
Absolutely.
You think about joy, you start smiling. I have a picture here of Johnny Carson, and he's fixing his tie with a big grin on his face. And I every time I look at that, it cracks me up because I know exactly how he is. And that's for real with him. Yeah. And that's what made him famous. He was himself. He was real. And people saw that, and they liked it. I mean, after all, they paid him $40 million a year.
Absolutely.
So I'm just saying, he must have been accepted by the people.
Absolutely. I mean, for years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, I used to watch Tony Robbins. Some people may call him Anthony Robbins. One of the things he was known for was NLP, or neuro-linguistic programming. Now, one thing in watching him operate with his audience, mm-hmm. he would have people put on a frown. And when they put on that frown, the demeanor, their shoulders dropped, everything. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they started feeling that way, because it goes back to you talking about being depressed or being joyful. Then he would have that same person roll the shoulders back, put a big old smile, a Johnny Carson smile on their face. Mm-hmm. Putting that smile on their face changed their whole body chemistry.
As you think you are. That's it. You want to be happy? Then think happy thoughts. You want to be sad? Well, think sad thoughts. That's all.
Well, Linda, you just can't go around thinking happy thoughts all the time.
That's true. That's true. But I catch myself pretty quick when I'm not.
And see, he says it often. It goes over many people's heads. More aware is better.
That's it. Nobody's aware all the time. Someone says, are you aware all the time? No, of course not. I mean, just having a body is a great distraction because it makes demands upon you when you're not ready to be demanded. It's a great deterrent from you thinking feelingly, freely, because it makes demands upon you. But you can deal with that. You can deal with anything if you'll focus on it in self, for self, to see where it is you're leading you in your thinking and feeling. Because you are leading you in your thinking and feeling much, much more than all the people around you. They're all saying something, but if you're listening to just what you're saying, and you're saying what you want to say because it's beneficial, then do so. Just don't pay any attention to what's going on to the world around you. I'm not saying, ignore people. No, not at all. And I'm not talking about not being sociable, but you have to think your own thoughts to live your own life. Simple as that.
And initially when you begin doing that, you're going to fill out a step. You will. I mean, I did. And I know that in talking to Linda, he did. And when listening to Neville, he did. Because what we're doing is stepping outside the cadence of those around us.